For those of you who don't know me, I'm Joy Pachwao and I teach at the Center for Historical Studies. I have been a student here from the 90s, and shortly after that I joined as faculty at the Center for Historical Studies. And I want to thank all of you, and I see many of you are not from the Northeast, and I want to thank all of you for coming and showing this support and solidarity to the students of the Northeast. For many years, Professor Tiplos Nongbri and I and a few others have been the sole representatives of teachers from the Northeast. But a few years since, we've had a Northeast India Studies program in JNU, and we've had more teachers from the Northeast. But we know that students from the Northeast and people from the Northeast have been very poorly represented, even in a university like JNU. And to show the solidarity today is also to recognize that, you know, as a minority, that the university as a whole, or the student body as a whole, recognizes this need to bring the issues of the Northeast into the forefront. So once again, thank you, and I want to thank the student body for collecting together like this, and as well as other faculty members as well. And I've been talking to a lot of students from the Northeast, and you all know that the students of the Northeast feel very much about, you know, the kind of situation that we have on campus. As you all know, that we've had a tradition of resisting the state, if I may say that. Right from the time of independence, many parts of the Northeast have resisted the state in many ways, and so this is in continuation to the kind of injustices that people face. And so this is also a show of solidarity from the people of the Northeast to the struggles of injustice that we face through this university today. Now, coming back to the dossier says many things. I've managed to go through, I mean, some of them, some bits, but there are about 2 pages where, you know, the main allegations come about. And as Zonuna has already mentioned, it's not only attacking the people of the Northeast, but since it has been highlighted, I think I'd like to say a few things related to the comments that have been made in this dossier. One of the things that is quite interesting is that, you know, what the dossier actually says, what these comments actually say, is that it is a continuation of the kind of, you know, attitude or racist attitude, or the kind of lack of understanding that people from, for lack of a better word, from the people of the mainland have with regard to the Northeast. You know, it's interesting that 3 things are linked together. One is anti-national, anti-state, secessionist kind of ideas are framed, and this is linked with, if I may say so, it is linked with addiction to night parties, revelries, and alcoholism. Yes! And this is also linked to you know, people from the region and JNU as a whole being linked to a den of organized sex racket. Yes! So these are words that I'm taking from the dossier. So there are these 3 things which somehow or the other. There is this. I'm from Mizoram, and there's a saying in Mizo which says that, you know, when there's a smoke, it always goes to the side where the person is ugly. So the smoke follows the ugly person. So perhaps there's some truth in that. Anyway. So that's a Mizo saying. Well, so okay, so it links these 3 things, and you know, such kind of statements comes from a complete lack of knowing about the region and its people. You know, and you know, a few years ago, I was doing research, and I went to, not I personally, because I realized that if I went there and sort of spoke to the people, they would not give me correct responses. So I asked a person from Orissa to help me in this research, and she went and visited many households in Munirka to find out what they thought about the people from the Northeast. And there were many statements that were made. You know, they're different, and of course, you know, food habits are brought out. You know, there were statements which said that people from the south are different, but these people are not that kind of different. They're absolutely different. Sure. And you know, they are a border community. Statements like that were made. I don't know what, you know, which can bring in many meanings when you say they're a border community and things like that. So there's a total lack of acceptance of the fact that you know, people from the Northeast belong to this region. And what this tells us is that at one level, you know, academics are promoting similar views in the university. You know, at one level you can accept that these things come from, I mean, it's not really acceptable that it comes from places like Munirka, but you know, you realize that even academics in an institution like JNU are proposing the same kind of ideas about the people of the Northeast. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out. And the second thing that I wanted to point out is that all this is part of a larger problem of how we have to see and understand the Northeast. You know, we realize that the Northeast is a different region, and very often people do not know how to understand this region. You know, you either have to see it in two kinds of frames. One is this, you know, gun-holding, gun-toting kind of insurgents. That's one kind of view that we have of the Northeast. Or the other view is, you know, people weaving, or people doing the bamboo dance, or people doing these traditional dances. You have to see them only within these two frames, or you don't see them at all. You know, this is the way in which the region and the community is being sought to be understood constantly. And therefore, so in a sense, what I'm trying to say is that it does not fall within recognizable frames. And because it is an unknown region, there is an attempt to write the script of the Northeast, you know, to make them into people that they think the region is, rather than trying to understand the region. So constantly there's an attempt to write the region in frames that are recognized by the people here. And therefore, for instance, we have, you know, attempts, for instance, of trying to put Mizo folk tales within the Ramayana narrative. You know, there are times when they're trying to incorporate the region in such a way that it will be part of a sort of recognizable cultural region. Okay, so there are many other works, for instance, in the early 20th century, in Manipur, also of trying to link, you know, folk narratives into the larger Indian, pan-Indian narrative. So what I'm trying to say this evening is that what I want to congratulate the students from the Northeast as well as the larger student community here is that this is, in a way, trying to write a script that is different from the larger, broader script that, you know, the mainland community is trying to write. This is an act of agency when we are protesting against these kinds of, what do you call it, stereotyping that the people from the Northeast face. And I would also, you know, I don't want to say very much, but I'd like to conclude by saying that, you know, the distinctiveness of and the variety and the ethnicities that we see in the Northeast is something that has to be recognized. Each group, each people's group that we have in the Northeast have their own aspirations, have their own understandings of what it means to be a people group. And I think, you know, this attempt at homogenizing, attempt at writing a larger narrative that fits into a broader pan-Indian narrative, these are things that have to be fought against and has to be recognized, and people have to be sensitive towards it. And so I just want to congratulate all of you for coming, because this is also an exercise in that agency, an exercise in showing the distinctiveness of the region and its people, and the kind of narrative that we as a people want to write for ourselves. So thank you very much.